Okay, 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 okay. Refresh now. Let's see. Are we good? Are we good? Are we good to go? Right, this is the most bizarre thing in the world. Jennifer, order me one as well, please, please. Now, King, I don't know how you're hearing me on the paranormal radio app. Unless it's a Kev Baker show that comes on before the main Kev Baker show today. Working now, we're good now. What was the last thing you heard? Where did we lose? Where did I lose you all? What? That was the most bizarre thing ever. We were live, as you know. And then on the back end of YouTube, it turned the stream off. And what usually happens when you turn the stream off and end the stream is the live chat would go away. The video would get archived. Sid, this is the first time this has ever happened to me, dude. When I went back onto the back end of the streaming page on YouTube, the start stream button was flashing again to like start the stream. He's heard nothing. Never started. He never came on. Oh, hang on now, hang on. So I've been sitting talking to myself for 10 minutes. Right, hang on. Let me put some music on. Dear Lord. Oh my word. Wasn't YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. I will take full blame for this one. It's just started working now. Yeah, that makes sense now. Hang on, I'll be with you in just a moment, folks. Don't go anywhere. Holy shamoly. Dear Lord. Thank you very much, Jocelyn. And thank you very much, Jocelyn, Sidvich, and X Werry, our latest member on the channel. And we had the Sidvich coming in with a sticker as well. We're here, we're live, and now we can get into it. Holy shamoly. So what you're saying is you missed my much laughing and joking and putting the trigger warning sign on the screen because Malaya had asked for a bigger trigger warning sign. You missed me running through all of the chat, reading out the chat. Oh, man. I'd like to sit here, right, and tell you that it was technical issues. There was something wrong on the back end of YouTube. Something that would take the heat away from yours truly here. But no, I can't. And I was confused. I was even talking to all of you, although I wasn't talking to any of you. And I was sitting saying, there must be something wrong with YouTube today. The view counter's not working. The chat room's not working. And I got all the way through a spiel about what I was doing outside today. The lovely photograph I had taken. Went over the meteorological effect called a sundog. You missed all that? Holy shamoly, man. Look, I can't blame anyone but me, because when I went over to look, and the first indication I had with a problem was Sidvich saying, well, 5 minutes is okay to be late, but 10 minutes is a bit rude. And I'm thinking, well, screw you, Sidvich, because I got on within 10 minutes. And then I noticed other people saying, that there's something going wrong here. And then when I looked at the back end, of YouTube, what do I discover? Hey, thank you, Sidvich. I had
Hashtag 76ers. At least we wait.
Yeah.
Smiley face.
Honestly, Jimmy, oh man, it's going to be one of these days. Jimmy Jeans is in the chat room. Jimmy's going to be on the show today. We're going to be talking about Rockin' Rio's reverse perverse circus. Yes, indeed. I've got some Sundog stuff. I've got some stuff we can take a look at. Sidvich is laughing. He knew what mistake I had made. Wow, honestly, there's no way I can. I wish you had been there for that entry to the show. I'm going to tell you, it was probably one of the best entrances I've ever done to a show, but none of you were here to see it. Crazy, right? But I want to thank all of you for being back here today. I want to thank the audience for throwing money at me to try and get me to pay attention to what's going on and maybe catch on to the fact I wasn't even live. Can't blame Mercury retrograde. Nope, that ship sailed. Can't blame YouTube. Nope. Yours truly, ladies and gents. Dave has entered the building. And this is what happens. This is what happens when KBS is approaching about a week without PPP. Look at the eyeballs. Look how white they are. It all goes horribly wrong. Everything goes horribly wrong. But no. Onwards, forwards, and let's get into it because, well, I wasted half an hour of all our time. I apologise for that. It's one thing I really, really hate the thought of doing is wasting people's time. And yesterday I took a day off, and halfway through taking the day off, I didn't appreciate just how much I needed a day off. So that's really refocused me. I've spent the past 2 or 3 days sitting out the back, and I do my best thinking when I'm out in the sun, just chilling, nothing to distract me. And while I was out watching the sun today, now we can get into it. There you go. So I took a picture of this, the sun dog. And listen, I went through the chat room. I was talking about Tombstone, Arizona. I was talking about Malaya, staying in strange hotels where you get more for your buck. You get a bit more woo than you bargained for. What can I say, folks? What can I say? There was people talking about UFOs in there. I've got the latest UFO for us to take a look at. And it gets more pathetic with every UFO video that Jeremy Corbell releases. It truly, truly does. Maybe Sid being a pilot, maybe he'll be able to help us with the latest UFO video that's come out. Salud. Or is that salt, Kev? On my second whiskey in Tombstone. Can I get a whiskey too? Could I? I would love a whiskey right about now, let me tell you. There we go.
Salt Kev. On my second whiskey in Tombstone, tumbler glass.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much. So this is what I took a picture of today, sitting out the back. The sun dog. Now, I remember the first time I ever seen this effect. It was like probably pre-2012. Back at a time when I was constantly taking pictures of all the lines in the sky, all that mess that they were putting up there. And the first time I seen this, I had no idea what I was looking at. This giant halo around the sun, but it's actually a known effect. called a sundog or mock sun, also called a parhelion. Plural is a parhelia. Why you would need to talk about more than one of them, I don't know. And in meteorology, it's an atmospheric optical phenomenon that consists of a bright spot to one or both sides of the sun, and two sundogs often flank the sun. So I've got the kind of circular effect that you can see there. Didn't quite catch the dog on either side, but I would imagine there's probably going to be pictures from other parts of Scotland today where you can see the full effect. Pretty cool, pretty cool. And like I was saying, tonight we're going to be getting into rocking Rio's reverse perverse circus. Yes, indeed. So that's going to be quite good. Reverse speech analysis of the biggest clowns in clown world. We've got Clown Biden, Clown Trump, Clown Bannon. I don't even know if these people are going to be featured, but it was just, I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun, and I can't think of three bigger clowns to put on the poster. So with that said, what is it about reverse speech? Is there something to it? Now, I've been very honest with all of you people out there out here in the past. When it comes to this, me being tone deaf, and I am tone deaf, I rarely hear what the reversals say immediately off my own back. Usually I need somebody to tell me what it says, and then I'll recognise what it's meant to say. Now, that kind of worries me, but I know there's a lot of people out there who do hear this right away, right off the bat. They get it. The most famous one I can think of is when Obama said, "Yes, we can." And when you play it backwards, it said, "Thank you, Satan. Thank you, Satan." Sounded like that. Thank you, Satan, right? And I've had the guy on the show, David Oates, that really popularised this art form, shall we call it. It says reverse speech was first advocated by David John Oates, lovely Australian gentleman, had him on the show one time, which gained publicity when it was mentioned on Art Bell's nightly Coast to Coast AM radio show. Now, it's based upon the theory that during spoken language production, human speakers subconsciously produce hidden messages that give insights into their innermost thoughts. Oates claims that it therefore has applications in psychotherapy, criminology, and business negotiation. The theory has been rejected by mainstream science and academia, but we don't really rely on things like that around here in the corridors of KBS HQ. Me being a pseudo-scientist, hey, we make it up as we go along, right? So Oates' claim is that, on average, once every 15 to 20 seconds of casual conversation, a person produces two related sentences. A forward spoken message that is heard consciously, and a backwards message unconsciously embedded in the person's speech. Now, this isn't to be confused with backmasking. I had to remember the term there. Now, backmasking is something that's been done in music for years, for decades. Many bands have done that, where when you play it backwards, you'll find something in there. But that's deliberately put in. What we're talking about with reverse speech is subconsciously. You know, people whine through their teeth, and you listen to them whine with your ears, but subconsciously, it leaks out in the reverse what their true meaning, what their true intention, what they're truly thinking and feeling. And I must admit, even though I don't hear the pronunciation of some of the words right away, I do think there's something to it. I really, really do. So I'm looking forward to getting into that with Jimmy and Rockin' Rio. Jimmy has assured me that this could be one of the best shows ever, because he knows some of the material we'll be going over today. And like I said to Jimmy, I think the audience are going to love this, because some of the best shows we ever do, some of the best streams we ever do, it's when we're listening to weird and strange sounds. So hopefully today, we're going to raise the bar over on the main show, starting in 55 minutes from now. So please be there, or be square, or run the risk of Jimmy and Rio playing you backwards. Christopher Alexander says this is an awesome concept. I agree with you, dude. That's why I like it. That's why I had David Oates on the show in the past. That's why I'm really looking forward to having Jimmy and rocking Rio. Rio is somebody that does this a heck of a lot. Really knows how to get the best out of these reversals. So we'll see how that goes. But I think it's going to be good. So then let's launch into... Oh, before we go anywhere, take a look at this that I found today. Take a look at this thing. A flying lizard. He was found in Southeast Asia, and it's a flying lizard. No, I'm not talking about the late and not so great Prince Philip. I'm not talking about the Queen. I'm talking about a literal lizard. There you go. And apparently, you can only find these in a forest in Borneo and nowhere else. So don't let anyone tell you that flying reptiles and dragons are things that are just in myths and fairy tales, ladies and gentlemen. No. There you go. They're the flying reptile right there. Now, talking of reptiles, let's take a look at Jeremy Corbell's latest disinformation video, shall we? Because I refuse to call this a UFO video. I refuse to call it a UAP video. And Jeremy Corbell is getting on my tits even more than Tom DeLonge and all that phony crowd did. This guy here is as dodgy as a 25-hour clock. You get me? There's something about this cat. And I can't make my mind up if he's just a useful idiot, somebody that's been used, unbeknown to him, or I suspect just an absolute con man shyster all the way. Why? Why, you ask? Well, I think maybe one way I've gamed this out, and I was listening to Alien Scientist earlier on today as well, his assessment of this character. You know, if you can have somebody releasing easily debunkable videos, easy to debunk, really kind of makes the whole topic look kind of ridiculous, then that could actually be the whole point of it. You know, this isn't aimed at people like me, Sidvich, and other people that are all into ufology. We've got to really make that clear. He's aiming at the general public, the kind of people who haven't been into UFOs, the kind of people who have always rolled their eyes at us. That's who they're aiming at. And then when it's something as ridiculous as we're about to look at in a moment, and a lot of the stuff he's put out has been easily debunked, okay? Easily debunked. Why do that? Because I think they're trying to make the whole subject of ufology look ridiculous. Look ridiculous, because once they do that, people will no longer look. And why would they not want people looking? Surely they don't care if we're looking at UFOs and things coming from outer space, right? Only most of it isn't. Most of it's technology that we've got hidden away from the public, and they're doing anything they can to mock any valid research into this topic. So let's take a look at the latest video from Corbell. It's a doozy. Here we go. I'll turn the music down here, folks. So this is meant to be from the USS Omaha. The Viper team have sent this to him. Now, you see the obvious green and red flicker in there, right? I think you can tell there's a bit of green and red going on. Isn't it funny how they're just they kind of stay kind of close to... Well, there's another one up here now. What do we think we're looking at, folks? Are we looking at more aliens that come across the galaxy and just happen to have the same flicker rate as the wings on a commercial aircraft? Don't know. But when you look at commercial aircrafts and the lights they've got on them, just so happens they've got green and red lights on the tips of their wings. And when you look at that, there's a lot of green and red flashing going on, right? Now look, I've been in the military, and I could imagine how all the sailors on the USS Omaha are having a right good laugh, perhaps, by sending Jeremy Corbell videos of anything. Because they know he's going to put them out there and claim it's a UFO, right? Because he's the biggest UFO expert in the world. He goes on TMZ, goes on Fox News, he goes on BBC. You see him everywhere, right? I mean, what Jeremy Corbell? I mean, if he's the man, he is the new UFO kid on the block. What he says goes. But why then is most of his stuff so easy to debunk? And it is. And listen, you know me, I truly do believe there's aliens, and I truly do believe they've got craft out there. But I don't think anything Jeremy Corbell is showing us comes anywhere close to making a case for that. So why? Why? Well, we can game it out numerous ways, but we've seen the UFO report that he was hyping up to the max in the days and the weeks before it came out. And what did it say? Absolutely diddly squat. About 7 pages of nothing burger. And we sat here for 4 hours on Friday waiting for it, remember? Absolutely nothing. So listen, when it comes to Corbell, not a fan. Don't trust the guy. And I really don't trust the kind of ufology that he's putting out there front and centre for the public to lap up. Only they're going to be left with egg on their face when it's so easily debunkable. Or is that the point? Is that the point? Crazy times, ladies and gentlemen. Crazy times. A big hi to Rose in the chat room as well. So listen, I'll let you make your own mind up on what we're looking at here. I provide, you decide. I've shared my opinion with you. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's otherworldly. I just don't. Make of that what you will, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be coming into the chat room. Wanda says aliens don't need lights. Why do people think they're going to have lights and gas and smoke and signal lights? I don't know. I don't know, Wanda. I really don't. Christopher says he's a state-sponsored actor. I've wondered that. Dodgy dude. And I've mentioned alien scientist before, Jeremy. Not Jeremy Corbell. But check out that channel. Because they have got some really good people come on there. And they really get into a lot of the research that's way over the top of my head. Into the anti-gravitics and supercavitation and all the actual genuine physics that's been worked on in these black projects for years. For years and years. And they do a really good job of discussing this and discussing Jeremy Corbell and what's going on with all of this. I don't like to come here and be a debunker, but at the same time, I can definitely smell some kind of psyop brewing. And remember, I don't think this whole psyop is aimed at people that are already into ufology. I think this is geared towards the public, the general public, that have been programmed to roll their eyes when they hear people talking about UFOs. The types of people who did often laugh at people like me and you when we would say there are UFOs. They're doing a job on them. But why? But why? So I provide, you decide. Moving on. Another character that I've spoken about when it comes to all these long time running now, 4-year plus psyop with the UAP stuff. Luis Elizondo. Yes, indeedy. Nothing against the guy, I just don't trust him. UFO whistleblower speaks out on resignation. So now, Sidvich says the red lights are defo bomb bays or gear down lights. I've seen this from ships before. It can be deceiving because nowadays planes are hell of a quick. See? That makes sense to me. I'm happy with that. Says here, former intelligence officer. And right there, spook. When did we start trusting spooks? When did that happen? again, you see, I don't think this is aimed at people like us because we're awake to the fact that spooks, you know when they're lying. How? Because they're talking. But if you go to the general public and you say, oh, this is a former intelligence officer, that's got a bit of gravitas to it. That sounds like somebody that should know what they're talking about, right? You see how it's not aimed at us? It's aimed at, and I don't want to call people normies. I think it's ridiculous. We're all just on different journeys. But for people who aren't into this type of information, when they start seeing a guy that's got like decades of work with the alphabet agencies and the Pentagon, that's somebody that they think they can trust. And that's when the best psyops are played, ladies and gentlemen. But it says here he spoke out in a recent TV interview about exactly why he resigned. Elizondo, who previously headed up, well, again, he claims he headed up the Pentagon's secretive Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, but there's been denials from the Pentagon, and then there's been people that have confirmed it as well. It's weird, it's wacky, and I think it's meant to be. Because I think in the long run, the general public are going to end up saying, see, I told you, all of these people are whackballs, they all lie, it's all some big giant hoax. Anyone can tell that video by Corbell's a plane. You see how that works? Potentially. Muddy the waters. Draw people's attention away to all of this stuff. Spin them a yarn and away back to doing your whatever you're doing in secret. Whatever you're trying to hide away from the general public. Yep, people like us will continue to try and dig for truth, but we're fighting an ever increasingly intensified battle in this information war, whether it's UFOs, whether it's what's been going on in the world for the past 18 months. Doesn't matter what the topic is. All of it, all information nowadays has been weaponized to a certain degree. We're killing my ufology, folks. So it says Elizondo, previously headed up ATIP, has maintained in recent months that he's been the target of a disinformation campaign. No, Lewis, we're on the end of your disinformation campaign. You and Hal Putoff and Christopher Mellon and all these cats and Tom DeLong. What happened to Tom DeLong? I bet you he's got pictures of Jeremy Corbell somewhere sticking darts in them, hasn't he? Since Corbell's taken all of his UFO fame. So he spoke out in more detail during an appearance on the Fox special TMZ Investigates UFOs, the Pentagon Proof with Harvey Levin on Tuesday. Elizondo has long maintained that the government is in possession of exotic material and handed in his resignation back in 2017 after 22 years of service because his superiors refused to present his findings to the then Secretary of Defense, James Mattis. Quote, I was facing significant resistance informing some of the most senior levels of DoD leadership about our findings. And I wrote in my resignation letter that I thought the bosses needed to hear and that these things are real. Yes, they're real. Okay, probably real, but they're ours. So, it goes on to say that we have real evidence from not only trained observers, but electro-optical devices, and also from radar data. And these things were operating with impunity within controlled US airspace. Now, the release of the government's official report on UFOs has since added credence to Elizondo's claims by confirming the existence of unidentified objects off the coast of North America. He told Levin that the Pentagon has gone as far as to threaten his security clearance and is now claiming that he was never even part of the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. That's a very clear way of saying, hey, you better mind your manners, you better shut up, otherwise we're going to shut you up, he said. Well, no, Louis Elizondo, because the type of people you're talking about, if they wanted to shut you up, whistleblower that you claim to be, dude, you know from being a spook, Louis Elizondo, you know how it works. Your brakes don't work on your car. You get hit by a mystery heart attack. You get taken out in the prime of your life. You don't get rolled out onto Fox News and Tucker Carlson and all of these places if you're some kind of threat to the UFO secrecy that's been maintained forever, right? Come on, folks. We need to think 2 steps ahead of these characters, because that's what they are. They're characters. They're actors. All right? They're spinning as a yarn. They're playing a game. Wish I knew the exact reason why, but listen, I provide, you decide, and you might totally disagree with me. You might think, Kev Baker, he's a government shill. He's trying to cover up all this UFO stuff that's coming out. If I thought for 1 minute this stuff was genuine, I wouldn't be doing shows on anything else. I'd be going all in, ball deep, all the way, beyond the tip. I'm telling you, folks, I just ain't buying it. But it's very interesting to see how this psychological operation is going to play out. So I'll keep bringing you the highlights as we continue. Now, moving on to some more interesting stuff, some more woo type information, away from the UFO stuff. I've had my fill of UFOs for about a lifetime. But in our story I came across on here, mystery as thousands of pigeons disappear. Now, Anne is going to be very delighted at this. She is not a big delusional morons, more like Kev. Is that me or people? I'm only joking, ZX. I'm a delusional moron on a good day. But it says here, mystery as thousands of pigeons disappear. Where did they go? Many thousands of racing pigeons have disappeared without a trace after setting off from Peterborough. Officials were left flummoxed on June the 19th when 10,000 pigeons failed to show up at their destination after leaving Peterborough on a routine flight that should have just taken 2 hours. Makes it sound like they're actual literal aircraft, doesn't it? Yeah, the pigeon was just on a routine flight. It was holding a flight pattern. It was coming into land. And, you know, I know I'm taking it a bit too far, but you get me. So it says, quote, the pigeons were taking part in short races, and most should have been home in a couple of hours, said Ian Evans, chief executive of the Royal Pigeon Racing Association, the RPRA. But at a time when we would expect more than 90% home, we'd only 10% of them. We're looking at a magnetic field activity, but at the moment, there has been no credible explanations as to what happened. We're still scratching our heads. Hey, give it a couple of days, man. Go and ask Jeremy Corbell. He probably knows. He knows everything else, right? Big Jezza. He's our guy. He loves us. He'll get the truth, right? Dick. So, as the days went on, a small number of the pigeons started showing up all over the place. Some were found in West Cork, Ireland, while others seemed to be exhibiting unusual scratches. Wow. There has even been sightings of birds as far away as Mallorca. I've had pigeons for 36 years, and I've never known anything like it. Something might have happened 50 or 60 years ago when weather forecasting was not as good, but with the weather forecasting available now, it's unprecedented in modern pigeon racing. Now, it's got to be, I say it's got to be in my true pseudo-scientific way. I'm thinking it's got to be something magnetic. It's got to be, right? These things totally rely on that to kind of navigate to where they're going. I don't know. What do you think in the chat room, folks? What are we thinking here? Where did all the pigeons go? Now, Jennifer says, I want to know where the hell Greer, Wilcock and Bassett are. Weren't they the ones screaming and yelling about disclosure? What's their opinion of what wasn't disclosed? Oh, Jennifer, no, please. Trust me. Wilcock's still out there. He's still out there. He works for the White Hats. I mean, trust Wilcock's plan, okay? Wilcock won't talk about this stuff because he's probably got a chip on his shoulder because, well, it kind of like ruins his whole narrative that he's the government go-to guy, the white hat's chief guy, when he's not even in the loop. Stephen Greer, another one. Last time I seen him on a video, he was absolutely incandescent with rage that this report was coming out without his blessing, that Jeremy Corbell and these new players had arrived on the scene, and nobody was including Stephen Greer. Now, Bassett, I like Stephen Bassett. I haven't heard of him for a while. Not sure. I hope he's actually well. I think it was Ben Emlyn-Jones. He's the guy that talks to Steve Bassett quite a lot. In fact, I'll check up with him to see what's happening there. I see Steve Hodgson in the chat room. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're feeling well. Ting says, I figured Bucktooth Wilcock would have dropped a vid by now. Oh, he's got brand new veneers. He's got like a $20,000 smile as our Wilcock. Literally. But hey, remember, Wilcock had to get new teeth. He had to. Listen, when you've been like running interference against the deep state, the way Wilcock has been doing for the past how many years now? Well, I remember watching him pre-2012 when he was spinning his bullshit back then. You know, he lost his teeth. Do you know why he had to get new teeth? Because the deep state were putting so much pressure on him that he was that worried that he ground them all down. That's what happened to his teeth. All that pressure of trusting plans and exposing the deep state and grifting thousands out of all of those unsuspecting people that were just throwing money at him, hand over fist, so that he could tell them more lies. Wilcock is an absolute abomination. He's not even a grifter. He's beyond a con man. Seriously. And I used to like that dude. Like when I was first kind of waking up, when I was that little startled bunny in the headlights when my eyes were wide open and my mind was wide open. But when your mind is wide open, you're prone to sometimes letting your brain fall out. And it was after a while of promise after promise from Wilcock and me going into work and telling my mates all of these promises after promises and always been let down because nothing he would say would come true. And I tell you, after a certain while, if you don't catch on to the fact that that guy's lying to you, there's a good case to be made that maybe you deserve his lies. I don't know. We're all meant to be learning and growing and on a journey here, right? So I think you have to, over time, you start recognizing the patterns that these people go through. And David Wilcock is somebody who targets people that are just waking up, people that are new to all of this information. And he sounds like some overqualified guru that just knows all of these amazing things and all this really cool stuff. And you can get caught in the headlights by that. Like any good disinfo, 90% of it's probably true, but it's the 10% that slip in on the other end. Like trusting plans and he's got inside white hats working in the government that assure him that. Like I say, folks, I said it a couple of weeks ago, there's a lot of people have swapped reality for fictive reality. They live in a world that doesn't even exist. It only exists on their own social media timelines. And it doesn't fit. It doesn't jive. It doesn't work out in the real world. And that's why you see a lot of people losing their crap right now. Because when they go out into the real world, they're thinking, well, hang on a minute, this isn't anything like what I believe because I've been looking at too much stuff on the internet. Mimetic warfare, psyops, misinformation, disinformation. It's crazy. It's crazy. Why do you think I've become so kind of almost to the point where I want to separate myself? I want to be something totally unique. I don't want to be lumped in with the alt media. It's been taken over. I remember, I'll ask you if you can all remember this. Do you remember when you first got into the world of alt media and call it truthing or 9/11 truth and all that stuff? Do you remember 101? Like the first lesson you ever got when you started to wake up? And it's a really important lesson to learn. And that is that the left-right paradigm is an illusion. It's an illusion, or as I like to call it, the left cheek and the right cheek of one big arsehole called politics. There's no separation. It might look divided, but the power. It's all about the power. And what happened? What happened? Because I look at most of alt media now, and they've all got their own carriages on specific trains, and they're all trusting plans and believing in things that just don't exist. They don't exist in the real world, but they do on your very cleverly procured social media timeline, procured for you individually by the algorithms. It tells people what they want to hear, and it reinforces their fictive reality every time they go back to the computer. It's hard to get out of it, but you need to start looking at the people and the connections of these people who are bringing you this garbage. And by the end of it, you'll realize, hang on a minute, these people are all connected to one another. They're all sitting there saying, well, I've got a source that says this. But you know who the source was, because it was another shyster that you heard saying it on another show. It's crazy, folks. It's crazy. 101, left-right paradigm. So, to that end, anyone telling you to jump back into that, what's that all about? What is that all about? So anyway, moving on. What else we got here? This one. And if I've triggered anyone with what I've just said there, then that proves my point. Because why are you getting triggered by what a Scottish guy in Glasgow's saying at 9:30 in the evening? Why is it that it riles you up if you hear somebody talking like that? Why is it you want to react negatively when somebody's offering you an opinion that maybe you haven't heard before? And I tell you what, maybe it's about time we all start looking at things from different perspectives, because that's when you start to get the scales peeled off your eyes. But anyway, I digress. Yes, I've probably annoyed a few people. It is what it is. So what does Stonehenge sound like? And when I pulled this up today, I thought, awesome, we're going to have something to listen to. I couldn't find any part where you could listen to what it sounded like. But anyway, says here researchers have developed a new understanding of what it meant to be a member of the inner circle. Yes, indeed. So Stonehenge remains profoundly mysterious. We still aren't certain who built it, or why they aligned its geometry with the summer solstice, or brought the smaller stones from 180 miles away, or what range of purposes it served. But every year, scientists learn more about the great stone enigma on Salisbury Plain. Most recently, a team from the University of Salford in Manchester and English Heritage, the charitable trust that manages Stonehenge, made a breakthrough about the monument's acoustical wonders. When I was doing shows with James Swagger back in the day, he was one of the ones that really made me aware of this very thing, the acoustics in some of these megalithic and other massive earthwork sites around the world. He had studied Newgrange in depth and had shown that the actual way that Newgrange, the mound at Newgrange, it was perfectly set up to create standing waves. And when you were in specific parts of the chamber, there was an amazing acoustical effects. Same as the hypogeum, I think that's what you call it, over in Malta. It's another one of these kind of stone carved out kind of caverns, and the acoustics. It seems to be all about the acoustics. And you got to wonder about acoustics because there are healing properties to some frequencies. Now, we're all about energy, frequency, vibration, when we talk about things on here. And I wonder then if the acoustics in these buildings, these locations, are to do with that. Maybe it was to stimulate the third eye. Maybe it was to stimulate some kind of astral travel. I don't know. But it says here, despite the lack of a roof, the research team has found the original circle of 157 standing stones. Only 63 complete stones remain today. Once acted like a sound chamber. For people in the inner sanctum 4,000 years ago, the placement of the stones would have amplified and enhanced human voices and music in a way that must be spellbinding. Now, if you were outside the circle, though, the sounds were muffled and indistinct. This finding has added credence to the growing consensus that rituals at Stonehenge were for a small elite. Nothing changes, eh? Nothing new under the sun then, right? The study was conceived by Trevor Cox, an acoustical engineer at the University of Salford. Some acoustical research has already been done at Stonehenge, but it was all based on what's there now. I wanted to know what it sounded in 2200 BC, when all the stones were in place. So to find out, he borrowed a standard technique from architectural acoustics and built a scaled down model. The tallest replica stones are approximately 2 feet high, and Cox and his co-workers based the model on laser scans of Stonehenge that were provided by Historic England, the government agency responsible for preserving historic sites, as well as the latest archaeological thinking about the different construction phases and configuration of the original stones. So, to create replicas, he 3D printed 27 of the stones. 3D printing, that's so cool. Like, so cool. Then he made silicon models of them and cast the other 130 stones. Now, by saying cast, he didn't like, whoa, magic them up, casting spells. A crap joke, I know. So some of the model stones were hollow plastic. Cavities were filled with aggregate and plaster mix. The others were cast using a plaster polymer water mix. Gaps were filled with children's modelling clay. And all the replica stones were sealed with a cellulose car spray paint to prevent sound from being absorbed. Once the model was complete, he began experimenting with microphones and speakers and measuring sound waves with a computer. We expect to lose a lot of sound vertically because there's no roof, he says. But what we found instead was thousands upon thousands of reflections as the sound waves were bounced around horizontally. Now, these reflections could have produced significant amplification, and it says they're 4 decibels. Cox says, as well as a powerful reverberation effect, meaning that the sound would have boomed and lingered before fading away. You can compare it to singing outside and then singing in a tiled bathroom. Your voice sounds better in the bathroom. Now, as modern people living in sound-reflective rooms in concrete cities, we are so accustomed to amplified, reverberating sounds that we barely notice them. In Neolithic Britain, however, people rarely heard themselves unless they entered a cave or a narrow, rocky gorge. Just that alone, you don't really, I mean, me personally, I can't speak for anyone out there, you don't really think about that, right? Like, what it must have been like. You never hear yourself in a built-up room because, well, like it says, you'd have to be in a cave or somewhere like that for that effect to happen. So it says it must have been magical to build Stonehenge, to make that that massive community effort, to align it to the solstice and then walk inside the circle and hear reverberating sounds. Now, he thinks it's extremely unlikely that these acoustic properties were there by design, but once they were discovered, people surely would have exploited them. Well, look, I don't know about that. So, did it just occur by accident? They just happened to put all these stones in a place where it just accidentally created all of this reverberation? and the acoustic effects that we just heard about there? Or could it be that there was a knowledge about where to place the stones, about how these acoustic waves work? And what does it, when it's reverberating through people there, and what does that do? We often listen to the didgeridoo and things like that on this show, right? Sounds weird. But that deep, that vibration, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it was an accident that it had these acoustic properties. I think it was built to specifically produce these abilities. I provide, you decide. It's just an opinion. Well, you know what I mean? I'm not going to fall out with anyone if you disagree with me. All good in the hood. It says human ceremonies nearly always have speeches, singing, or chanting, he says. And we know there were musical instruments around, bone flutes, pipes, drums, horns, and they would have sounded amazing inside the circle. If you were important, you definitely want to be in there. And if you were on the outside, not only was your view obscured, you couldn't hear what was going on either. The next stage of research is to place scale replicas of people inside the henge and find out how much sound they absorb. Cox has also been approached by a number of musicians who are eager to replicate the same precise reverberations in their recordings. It's an exciting thought for them, he says. Through a mathematical process called convolution, they can record their instruments to sound like they're playing at ancient Stonehenge. And it makes you wonder, back when they changed the frequency of music. I'll try to remember it. Is it 432? Is that what they changed it from? 432 hertz? I'm sure the chat room will know. It was 432 hertz, wasn't it? And then they changed it to something else because when you come over here, the 432 hertz is the kind of thing you use for deep sleeping. They changed it to 440, I'm taking it. So what does that 8 hertz difference mean? I think it means a lot. Because I think it takes you away from that more natural harmonic, the 432, that could potentially have real world effects on our body. Okay, depending what way how we're doing this, and you take it to a 440, which doesn't have that resonance. Your body isn't going to it's not going to work. It's not going to be. It's just off. It's like when you're tuning in a radio. If you remember Atlantic 252 on long wave, you'd get it on 252. You wouldn't get it on 260, or it'd be called Atlantic 260. So it does make a difference when you're changing the frequency. So just that little bit of a change might be enough to have taken whatever sound was, and by that I mean the almost magical properties of sound. Everything is vibration, right? Everything is frequency. Even the universe is a frequency. So I think by changing that, and listen, this is nothing new. People have been talking about this for years. But in my mind, that's how I how would I put that? How I conceptualize it. Is that right? How I picture it? Yeah, that kind of thing. So yes, now I'm looking at the time. We've only got 15 minutes until the main show today. And that's my fault because I had been talking to the audience for half an hour before I realised, thanks to all you geniuses out there, that I hadn't clicked live. I know. What can I say? I've only been YouTubing for over 10 years. It's like, can't blame it on a rookie mistake. But this here, we've got the reverse perverse circus. Jimmy Jeans and Rockin' Rio, and we're going to have Clown Biden, Clown Trump, Clown Bannon, Clown AOC, Clown, you name them, you're going to hear them forwards and backwards. Because forwards is one thing, and we know when politicians speak, they lie. But what do they say unknowingly? What do they leak out there into the ether? What does their subconscious clue us into when you listen to them in reverse? Old age, says Steve. It definitely is old age, man. I'm telling you, dude. Crazy, man. I don't know if you've done that before, Steve. I don't know if you go live on YouTube or anything, but always make sure you've pressed go live on the back end. It's usually a good trick, a good rule of thumb to follow. So we will have Jimmy Jeans and Rockin' Rio in just a moment. I'm going to go and get Jimmy and Rockin' Rio right now. You'll be able to join us over on tfrlive.com, tfrlive.com/chat. Now, if you've got issues there, I know some people have said they've got issues. TFR also goes out on TalkStream Live, so you can tune in there. Or as King mentioned earlier on, you can get it over on Paranormal Radio app, or you can come and chill out with all of the KBSers over in Disco. As long as you can get to hear it, that's the main thing to me, because I think today's going to be real fun. And I think there's going to be a lot of wow moments in there. Because usually when I'm shocked and I'm impressed with something, I'm a wow kind of guy. And I've got a funny feeling Rockin' Rio and Jimmy are going to have me saying wow quite a lot today. So listen, I am very, very sorry for wasting 20, 25 minutes of your time at the start of the stream. It is what it is. It's done now. It's gone. It's a moment we shared almost together. We shared it in the chat. But I will be back either after today's show or before tomorrow's show with Scotty Lopez. And on Friday this week, I think Johnny Whistles. Yes, Johnny Whistles is going to be coming on Freaky Friday. So that is something to look forward to. But remember, 13 minutes from now, we're live on TFR with the Kev Baker Show. Thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you all so much for your patience, for tolerating my hiccup at the start of the stream, for listening to me ranting and raging about how our community has been destroyed, ladies and gentlemen, and how I've had to build a place called Speculation Island for people who truly are open-minded, who truly are free thinkers. Doesn't mean we all agree. That would be weird. But as long as you're trying to do this the right way, and you're wise to the people out there who are trying to blow smoke up your tuchus, hey, you're welcome on Speculation Island any day. So until 12 minutes time now, I will bid you farewell. And yes, I need to get going, folks. I'm out of here. I need to get music first, though, right? Here we go. I'll find us some music. I'll catch you soon, folks.